It's Boxing Day, my friends. So, as a silly little bonus video ahead of my full return in January, let's see if I can beat Fallout 4 with only the boxing gloves. The rules for this run are as follows. I can only use the boxing gloves, no followers, no glitches or exploits, no power armor. I'm going to be playing on very hard difficulty. And as a bonus, I'm following what I call the Code of Boxing. AKA, I must never use chems, alcohol, or any other kind of medicine apart from doctor-approved prescriptions. Spoiler alert, stimpacks and radaway are not doctor-approved. Rest, non-irradiated food, and hydration are all fine though. So we start out once again in Sanctuary. I tried really hard to make the character resemble some kind of rough and tumble brawler this time, but I accidentally made something that resembled Anthony Ainsley's rendition of the Master, so I just decided to go with it. After all, accidental cosplay is usually the most fun kind of cosplay. Our build is a fairly standard melee build. Drain everything except strength, endurance, and luck. Strength and endurance are pretty self-explanatory, but luck is here just for Idiot Savant. After the bombs fall, our wife gets iced in more than one way, and we're set loose. As I demonstrated last time we played Fallout 4, it's more than possible to escape Vault 111 without attacking. It just takes a little bit of finesse, and a whole lot of waiting. Now then, let's go grab our weapon, shall we? Thing is, if you've played this game enough, you know you can get pretty much anywhere without combat. Today we're heading for a location that's near the Railroad HQ. Specifically this gym. Inside, lying just in the middle of the ring, is the boxing gloves. Probably one of, if not the most forgettable weapon in Fallout 4. Hell, I didn't even know these things existed until I got a legendary one on one of my more recent casual playthroughs. They do a whopping 2 more damage than bare fists. Yay. Since we're in the area anyways, I decided to go and try out our gloves on the local ghouls. Well, glove at least. For some reason beyond my comprehension, we can only use the right boxing glove. The damage is okay, at least for very hard difficulty, but lacking in armor, the ghouls destroy me. Repeatedly. Now any normal person would go and get armor and come back, but given the unintentional cosplay, I had made the decision to not use armor and instead go for ballistic weave on clothing, which means for the time being, I'm effectively naked. Since I was getting nowhere though, I went back to Sanctuary and began setting up water purifiers. Purified water is going to be my main source of healing in this run, since all irradiated food is off the table. I took out enough ghouls to hit level 2 and grab Idiot Savant though. I headed over to Concord to help out Preston's bunch, but it didn't go well. Granted, I did manage to make it far enough in to get another level up and grabbed Adamantium Skeleton, since without stimpacks, any limb damage we get may as well be a death sentence. But seeing how badly things were going against normal raiders, I didn't fancy my chances against a Deathclaw. So Preston's gonna have to wait. By using sneak attacks to my advantage, I finally managed to make my way through the ghouls at the Old North Church and set up a meeting with the railroad. They weren't exactly impressed with the renegade Time Lord that just casually walked in. Thankfully, Deacon smoothed things over and got us a mission. On our way over to meet him, we hit level 4 and grabbed Iron Fist. Right now, all I can really ask for is damage. Any defensive upgrades we get is probably going to be negligible until we have Ballistic Weave. After meeting up with Deacon and a rather gruff-looking gentleman, our mission begins. Or rather, Deacon's mission begins. See, while I'd rather not hang back, the synths in here absolutely shred my health bar. In a one-on-one fight, I'm probably fine, but a lot of the fights here are 2 to 3 synths at a time. So for the most part, I'm just hanging back and waiting for either one of them to come to us, or for Deacon to pick off enough of them that I feel comfortable engaging. This relatively simple mission took over an hour. And I'm not gonna lie, by the end of it I was seriously reconsidering the difficulty I'd chosen. But eventually we got Carrington's prototype, and with that, full membership into the railroad. Thankfully the few other quests we need to do are rather light on combat. Firstly, we have to escort a synth to a safe house, which involves fighting a few raiders, but they can mostly be funneled into one-on-one situations, and our newly gained toughness perk gives us just enough defense that I wasn't instantly killed by any mistakes. Add on that we get high rise here to draw aggro, and this only took a couple of attempts. Next up, Pam wants us to set up a safe house. Luckily, all that's really here is a couple of mole rats, and that's probably one of the few creatures I can easily kill right now. But it does bump us to level 6, so I grabbed the Armourer perk in anticipation of getting Ballistic Weave soon. Now for the cash missions. Tom here will unlock Ballistic Weave after a random one of these, but for the most part you can sneak in rather easily without combat. Well, all except the hospital at least, which is full of super mutants. But the cramped corridors let us just run through while chugging water. After the third cache, Tom finally coughed up the info we needed for Ballistic Weave. Now along the way I had stopped in Good Neighbor to heal up, only to discover something new. If you visit the memory den, you can start the main quest from here by going into a memory lounger and reliving the murder of your wife. I'm not quite sure why this exists, but it was fun to discover. I swear, it's been 9 years now and I'm still learning new stuff about this game. Anyways, I need supplies to upgrade my tuxedo, so I decided to stop by Diamond City. I need to mark it for later anyways, so I may as well. It was here at the Dugout Inn that I ran into Edward Deegan, which is great since I wanted some of the gear related to his questline. Unfortunately, I'm not really capable of doing this just yet. Even with Ballistic Weave Mark II, these are some really high level raiders. I stopped in briefly at the Valentine's Detective Agency to get the location of Nick marked on my map, but once again I am not prepared enough to handle the Triggermen as they just nuke my health bar with their automatic weapons. Well, no better time than now to go and help out Preston finally. Now, the power armor here is mandatory for setting the flag of taking the minigun off the vertibird, but after jumping down I just immediately exit. I was prepared for a long game of dodging and weaving here with the Deathclaw, but by the time I had dealt with the raiders that followed me inside the building, I came out to find a dead Deathclaw. Apparently Preston picked today of all days to be competent. It's also worth noting that before this run began, I had decided that I'd be siding with the Minutemen this time. This does mean a lot of settlement quests though. But first, I had leveled up, so I took the Blacksmith perk in order to add a lead lining to my gloves. This turned out to be the single best upgrade I have ever put on a weapon. It gives us a chance to cripple a limb. And crippling a limb that is holding a weapon forcibly disarms the opponent. This means by pure dumb luck I can turn any fight into a full-on boxing match. But this wasn't the only upgrade I got. Oh no. But you see, I was doing some side questing to level up a little, and one of the side quests I got was to clear the National Guard training yard. Then this happened. I don't even want to know what the odds of that happening were, but I got not just a usable legendary to drop during a challenge run, but a damn good one at that. Thanks to this, I managed to clear out the raiders from Parsons' Creamery. Edward's next quest had us go find Jack's sister, which isn't really difficult all things considered. But convincing brother Thomas to release her? Yeah, that's a bit harder. He wasn't having any of our crap and instructed his friends to give us the good old London welcome. Next time around, I make sure not to back myself into a corner and kite the enemies around the building to thin out their numbers. With Imogen free, we head back to find out the asylum's under attack. So me and Jack head out to assist Edward. Jack here did a very good job of funneling the raiders inside the asylum into a fairly orderly line, which helped us keep the situation somewhat under control. Getting to the office, we gained the charisma bobblehead before pressing on. I really should not have pressed on. See, after jumping down into the basement and seeing a magically appearing raider, it dawned on me. I was extremely low on water, and thanks to autosaves, I was effectively stuck here until I won. So with next to no heals left, I threw myself at the next group of raiders over and over and over again. There are 2 gun wielders and Lefty with his pool cue. By running in immediately, I can take out one of the gunners and then retreat to the hole to heal. After a few more tries, I was able to take out the second gunner, leaving just me and Lefty. Well, unfortunately for Lefty, I'm a righty. With all the raiders down, we flipped some switches to kill Lorenzo. See, I did all this just for Lorenzo's suit. It happens to be the best match for the Master in all of Fallout 4. So now that I have my Dapper suit at Ballistic Weave level 3, it was time to actually attempt to make progress again. Even with our upgrades, the triggermen are still an issue though. I was forced to play this encounter rather carefully, otherwise they can and will rip right through my health bar in a matter of seconds. I used this small cubbyhole to filter a few triggermen in, and then with their thinned numbers, I was eventually able to take out the last few enemies between me and the vault. It's right now I'd like to just take a moment to show you how satisfying some of these fights look. But I digress. The first half of this vault is pretty much a breeze as I'm only fighting 1 or 2 enemies at a time. And once I free Nick, it gets even easier. Add on the fact that we have a free source of infinite clean water, and you would guess it's kind of easy. Skinny Malone though, wasn't. Nick goes down easily, leaving 4 people versus 1 of us. 3 of which are wielding automatic weapons. I tried really hard to do this the honourable way, but lacking in healing led to death after death after death. In the end, I ended up using a stealth boy to assassinate 2 out of the 3, then I circled around Skinny Malone until I bashed his head in. With Nick free now, he does the usual detective spiel, before leading us into Kellogg's house. We bribe Geneva for the key, before opening up a secret hatch and calling in Dogmeat to help us track Kellogg. I know you can technically skip all the way to Fort Hagen as soon as you trigger Dogmeat, but I've had many cases of the game glitching out on me when I did that in the past, so for majority of my runs I'm going to be following Dogmeat. This unfortunately results in a fist fight with a bear. That was shockingly easy, all things considered. Oh well. Arriving at the fort, we dismiss Dogmeat and go about clearing out all the turrets one by one. But the synth inside managed to kick my ass. Well, since I need to do this anyways, I started dealing with Minutemen quests. A lot of these are go here, kill this kind of quests, such as Raiders at the Corvega assembly plant, Bugs at the Tappington Boathouse, more Raiders at Backstreet Apparel, but eventually we're tasked with clearing the castle. Meeting up with our troops, we begin the slaughter. Our enemy? Mirelurks. These little buggers are somewhat difficult to deal with using any sort of melee weapon as they have natural armor. But in this case, who wouldn't want a fist fight with a giant crab? Or 20. Maybe 30 actually. Oh well. Point is, my luck meat and eggs can be used to make some decent food, so I'm thankful for this bountiful harvest. Their queen, however, is decidedly more angry. So angry, in fact, she turns completely invisible. Ever tried to fight a foe that can one-shot you, but you can't see when they're attacking? Fun. Now, so long as the queen's alive, she spawns hatchlings non-stop, and they each drop meat, so the sensible thing here was to farm for a little while. When I had enough, I made use of the door to do hit and run tactics on the queen until she finally fell. Back at Sanctuary, I cooked up all the meat I'd gotten, which should last us for a while, and then it's back to Minutemen quests. You know, like clearing ghouls from Sunshine Tidings, or raiders from Oh Sweet Merciful God! So yeah, meet Boomer. He's a raider in full power armor, wielding a fat man. Needless to say, he one-shots us if he hits even remotely close. I spent a good while figuring out if this was even possible since I couldn't get anywhere close to him. Very occasionally I'd make it to the stairs beneath him, but at best I'd have time for one hit. So it's time for everybody's favourite game. Nuclear disarmament. And by that I mean the only way I'm gonna win this is if I disarm Boomer. Eventually I started using stealth boys, as they gave me a chance for 2 hits rather than 1, but needless to say, I died a lot. Then this run happened. Boomer fell off the upper level, giving me a few extra hits while he tried to aim upwards. And that finally let me disarm him. The rest of the group went down pretty easily, but needless to say, that encounter had shaken me. As a break, I went back to the Minutemen to meet a veteran at the castle. Ronnie here knew about his secret armory. We just needed to go through halls full of mines and a sentry bot. Bugger. Well, by using the pillar in the middle of the room, you can lock Sarge here into a melee loop. But then things got interesting.
I have to go now. My planet needs me.
Problem is, Sarge needs to die before I can progress. Thankfully, after a little while he spawned back into the tunnel, letting us get the final hit and then hit those legs since sentry bots explode upon death. Ronnie here very slowly limped over to open the way forward, giving us access to build artillery units. You know, these things look good, but they really are pointless. Oh well, more missions to go, like paying a ransom, or brawling some mutants. Pretty sure I saw Deathclaw at one point, but it's gone now. Thankfully, that's all for the Minutemen for now. So back to Fort Hagen. This instance side has some really unusual fighting styles once you disarm them. But the real threat in here is the laser turrets. Those things hurt. Now, rather than dealing with Kellogg and his synths together, I funneled the synths into the hallway to take out, and then began pummeling the invisible Kellogg repeatedly until he keeled over. The Brotherhood makes their big entrance, but we're gonna be pretty much ignoring them this time around. It's time for the Memory Den sequence. Other than Dr. Amari recognizing us from earlier, this is exactly the same as it always is. So I just ran through the memories until the last one where we learned that we have to find Virgil in the glowing sea. Surely you see the issue. I have no rad resistance, no ability to use radaway or rad-x, and I'm going into the glowing sea. Normally, this would be utterly impossible. But by using the landmarks in the glowing sea as checkpoints, I can slowly make my way through by fast travelling back and forward to remove my rads. This lets us barely make it to Virgil's cave in about 3 segments altogether, but we have to avoid combat completely. Virgil gives us our next objective, which is to kill a Corsair. So it's off to Green Tech Genetics. The way up was rather uneventful. Even the missile launcher gunner that normally gives me issues decided to die rather easily this time. At the top, we begin our brawl with Z247. Almost immediately I disarmed him despite not being able to see him, But then panic set in as I saw the shimmer of the courser heading towards where I knew a fat man was. Racing over, I barely managed to grab it before Z2, leading to an invisible brawl. Once he turned visible again though, I had a satisfying round of fisticuffs before extracting his chip. Since I'm already friends with the railroad, this is thankfully a little bit faster, but it's still slow. I can really understand why other runners choose to kill the railroad instead. Taking the code back to Virgil, we get the plans for the signal interceptor, which Sturgis can thankfully help us build. Off into the Institute. Here inside, we download some data before finding RoboSean. Well, turns out father is actually son, so we're allowed free reign of the Institute. After marvelling at some gorillas and retrieving Virgil's drugs, we challenge Newton here to a friendly bout. Man, he has a glass jaw. Anyways, long story short, that's how I got kicked out of the Institute. We give Sturgis the data and Virgil his serum before coming back to see Preston. Turns out the Institute is really upset as they're storming the castle. This was unrelenting. I ran out of all healing supplies. Hell, I actually left to get more and still ran out. Thankfully there's a few beds around the fort so I could occasionally sneak a heal that way, but the rest of the time I was relying on Life Giver rank 3 to slowly heal me over time as I hid away. Wave after wave after wave of simps poured in. I'm pretty sure I saw like 10 courses together at one point, but eventually we managed to repel them. Preston then suggests taking the fight to the Institute. So after restocking on water and wiping McDonough's ugly grin off the face of the Commonwealth, we began crawling through the sewers towards the Institute. I pretty much sprinted through this area, ignoring the turrets, as it has a lot of radiation, and I have no way to heal that once I'm inside. Had a few brawls here or there. Found this nightmare of a room. Then made my way into the Institute proper and activated the teleporter to teleport in the Minutemen. Me, Preston and the boys systematically sweep through the area. I got in a fist fight with a gorilla. 2 even. Then we were locked from progress. While I brawled with XPN 20A here, Preston's lot wiped out the small fry. Then we headed into the director's office to unlock the way to the reactor. The way is completely open at this point, but I am also out of supplies. So rather than brawling my way through, I sprinted through and placed the bomb before being teleported back to the entrance, where the game gets so confused at me sparing RoboSean that it crashes. For the record, that's the 5th crash on this run. Reloading and everything works out this time, and we get to marvel at the great fireworks show. But I have one last task in mind for our great boxer. Over at General Atomic's Galleria, there is a ring. If you step into this ring while wearing boxing gloves, you can have an actual boxing match versus the champ. In the name of fairness, I swapped out my lead-lined gloves for some normal ones the gym had on hand and began my brawl. And with a smidge of health remaining, I am declared the new champ. What? That not what you were hoping for? Okay, fine. Here's Swan for you while I wrap this up. I'm not gonna lie, despite its hiccups, this is probably the most fun run I've ever had in Fallout 4. The flow of combat once you disarm a foe is like nothing I've ever experienced before. It genuinely feels like a full-on boxing match. I'll probably be revisiting this sometime when I feel like attempting going weaponless, as I know that comes with a bunch of unique power attacks that you can do in third person. But for now I'm just trying to get things going again. As I said in the beginning of this video, this was a bonus video. I kind of managed to throw it together on the side while I was working on what was supposed to be my proper return video in January. So I'll leave any explanations of where I've been until then. For now, I'll just show you that I indeed did not use any stimpacks or radaway, or any drugs for that matter, and come back in less than a week for a return to a tradition, just in a different form. See you guys then.